Welcome everyone for joining us live and by recorded video to this month's Let's Talk Solutions, focusing on embracing Foundation Cloud. A couple of housekeeping items. We will be recording today's presentation, and you will be able to find this and previous recordings on NPAC's knowledge base. Also, if you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We have team members monitoring your questions, and we'll make time at the end to discuss some of them. With that, let me introduce Jeff Armstrong, our Chief Innovation Officer, and Jill Byrne, our Senior Solutions Engineer, who will be leading today's training. Let's quick look at the agenda. Today we'll be going through planning your migration from Classic to Foundation Cloud, the Foundation Cloud grants menu structure and navigation to show you how that works, using the web processing queue. Jill will be also reviewing the landing pages and entering a new grant record, and then we'll also talk about some additional training resources. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Jeff Armstrong.
All right, thank you, Amy. Well, greetings, folks. We're going to start out today by talking a bit about embracing this change from GE Classic to Foundation Cloud. No one likes change. We know it can be difficult, but if you plan well, it can make this transition easier for you and for your foundation, for the whole team. So wanted to provide a few tips for you guys to make this transition successful for your organization. So the first thing is just to plan that it's going to take time. You're not just going to be able to flip a switch and jump over to NXT. Set aside time for your staff to do training and practicing. We suggest, at least 90 minutes to watch the Foundation Cloud Grants training videos on thinkific.com. Jill is going to discuss those at the end of her presentation. At the end, at least half an hour just to log in and get familiar with the web application itself, the layout, exploring the toolbar, etc. At least an hour to practice just creating grant records, general data entry, and then at least an hour to do other functions that are specific to your tasks. Right, a finance person may need to practice doing different things than a scholarship manager may need to do. So set aside some time and plan for a transition that's not going to happen overnight. So. On the next slide here, Amy, we'll talk through some more best practices here. We recommend that you consider having a thought leader or a power user within your organization spend time learning the system well on their own, and then have that person possibly perform some internal training for all your staff. That may be one way to go about making this transition more successful. If you have internal documentation, which we hope you do, within your foundation on on the various processes around grant management, once you've learned what the new processes are in Foundation Cloud grants, we recommend you go back and update that documentation with possibly new screenshots or new data flows as needed. So identify key business processes which need to change. If you've been doing your correspondence, mail merge letters, letter mail merges or emails one way and they work a different way in Foundation Cloud grants. Just identify what those things are that you'll need to learn and change. And as these new functions take shape in your organization, celebrate each win. It's a very important part of this process is to see the little wins along the way. And that's going to go a long way once you've gotten buy-in from the entire organization. Highlighting the advantages of the new system, stressing the need for communication and patience within your foundation, and also within between you guys and with Impact during this transition. Some folks are more excited about change than others, and just making sure that everybody's on the same page with the need to make this change is key. And so then lastly, Amy, on the next slide, for planning this transition, we definitely recommend planning for a time of dual entry, during which your foundation will use Foundation Cloud as much as possible, but you'll still have GE Classic as a backup. And then we suggest that you make a migration plan, pick some dates, stick to that plan. Here's a sample of what it might look like. Spend a week having your staff watch the training videos and spending time in Foundation Cloud grants learning the system. After that, maybe have an internal meeting to review, what you found, what your concerns are. If there are problems with your environment, opening Impact support tickets if you need to. And then during that week, continuing to spend additional time in Foundation Cloud Grants, getting comfortable with the processes and the functions, making sure that you're ready to start using the system. So a couple of weeks just wrapping your head around what this change is going to mean. And then at some point, start your soft transition where you're using Foundation Cloud Grants for day-to-day processes, still using GE Classic, but only as a last resort if you need to. Opening the support tickets with our support team. They're ready to help you and waiting, and they want to see you succeed. And then finally set a cutoff date where your transition is complete, you're fully working in Foundation Clouds, and you're going to celebrate that successful migration, maybe have a party at the office. So we've got some experience here helping other foundations with this transition. And so if you are thinking about this change management and you'd like to consult with us, any of the three of us panelists would be happy to meet with you and talk through what that transition could look like for your team and how to help you plan for a good transition. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jill and let her take you through the system.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff. So we're going to dive in, see it all in action. But notice there on the screen, we're encouraging you, for those of you that might be hesitant or have yet to dive into Foundation Cloud Grants, we're inviting you to come along in the journey as I walk through the screens. Click along with me. So you see the URL there. It's not going to be clickable on your screen. It will be, of course, when we distribute the materials, but hopefully you have this saved in your browser. So please join me as we go through our tour together. All right, let's share the screen. All righty. Hopefully everybody is now seeing my screen. So what we have here is that login screen. Do notice that you have some options here, such as connecting to your integrated systems, your CRM and your financial system. And then, of course, you have the option of keeping you signed in, which is super convenient as you nav around into different websites. If you have forgot your password, you can certainly use this option here. Do know that you'll have a few chances to log in, but if you end up getting locked out, it'll be 20 minutes before you can try again. There's a lot of helpful articles here within the help, so definitely review this throughout our experience today. As we go along, I'll be pointing out articles and things within the system that can help and make things a little easier. When you log in, first thing you're presented with is the home page. For those of you that like to read up on the release notes, this is a great spot to be able to access those. One of the nice things about being on cloud products is you guys don't have to worry about releases and implementing those. We do that for you. We've taken care of all of that for those of you that are hosted. That's one of the advantages and so forth. So taking a look at the what's new, we'll continue on our journey. After I've logged in, your user settings are found kind of this downward caret here if you hover over that. It's also right next to my visual indicators that I am successfully linked to my integrated systems. And in my environment here, I'm successfully connected to both my integrated CRM and my finance system. So keep your eye on those. When I pop open my account details, that's going to let me know what role I have in the system, along with the tenants. Notice that I can change my password here if I would like to. You're also able to indicate whether or not you'd like to receive email notifications of workflow assignments. Activate that option, and then you can determine how many days before or after a workflow task is due that you would like to receive that digest. Some other things that we have here as we go along, including those alerts. So some of you might be used to, some of our classic users, you're used to that home page, possibly indicating some workflow items and some tasks assignments. That's now under this alert bell, this little bell icon here, and you can dive straight into your workflow task assignments and then jump into those and be able to complete those tasks. Along with for anyone that happens to have the security rights, such as being able to manage the portal and the users out on the portal that might need some assistance. If your user role gives you access to process those online grant requests, those coming in from our fund holders, making those grant recommendations. Someone wants to open a new fund on the portal. Somebody changes anything to their investment strategies, and again, workflows. So this is kind of the repository for all of those notifications and that the system is trying to alert you to, that you can, some action items there. As you can see, the system is broken up into functional areas. We're not going to spend time going through every single one of these today, but I definitely invite you to explore the system, click into things, click into areas, get used to where everything's at. You're not going to hurt anything by just clicking around. And again, just kind of getting used to where everything is set up. And so one of the things that the system has here in FCG is including a robust dynamic search. This is actually one of my favorite things, this search at the top here. By putting in a keyword, the system is going to look through all of the records, and records are things like constituent records, fund records, grant records, proposal records. Everywhere that my last name is showing up is appearing within this dynamic search. So that is a really great way to be able to see and search within the system pretty quickly and get a robust set of returns associated with that keyword. While we're looking here, I also want to mention the help again, very dynamic. It is going to change or present the articles based on the page that you are within the system. It's also keyword searchable. So we can put in a keyword and have the system pull back various results based on that keyword search. And we're working on these every day, beefing up and augmenting our help section to try and make it more valuable to you, and so forth. So while we're here, let's jump into the processing queue. So underneath online apps, web portal processing queue. This is going to present us with all of those requests for access out on the portal. At any time, I can present the list to show me all the web users, not just those that are needing assistance. So I've got a couple that I created just for our processing example here during our time together. So I started on the portal and I created just a fake account, so to speak. And so this is someone asking for access as a fund holder, fund advisor. I can come in here and grant them access or approve that access straight from this modal screen here. Do any sort of vetting. Right now, the system is trying to let me know, hey, I'm not finding them within the system. I don't have a way of linking them together. So it's trying to be intuitive here and let me know that I'm probably going to need to create this user within the CRM system. Of course, best practice is to look up that constituent first, see if they exist. If they do not exist, I can dive straight into creating that new constituent record. In my test system here, I'm currently connected with Razor's Edge. So I can certainly kind of shoot two birds with one stone here. And Jill's a huge fan of efficiencies. And so what happens by doing this and creating this constituent record, not only am I going to be establishing it within my integrated CRM, but I'm also creating a constituent record within the grant system, and it's going to be linking them together. And as you guys well know, with everything being synced, we want that connection. We want that CRM key so that as updates are being made, whether that's within Foundation Cloud grants or within my integrated CRM, that the system's going to keep all of that up to date. So again, once I am done processing and approve them, I can then update. It's going to ask me if I would like to finish processing and then prompt me to send that brand new user an email notifying them of the change. Of course, you can come into the system and configure the emails. So you have complete control over what that message is going to be that is sent out to them. Now, some other examples while we're in here. Let's see, let's pull up Elizabeth. Elizabeth has indicated she's changed some things. So remember, out on the portal, they have a profile. They can go in and change their address. Maybe in this case, she's updated her name with her credentials and so forth. So this is also going to be alerted to the Foundation Cloud grant users that, hey, there's a web user, they've made a change, you need to process that and accept it. We can certainly then update her record with that new information, accept it, and then process it. Again, we can send them out an email notification, letting them know that we have seen their change, absorbed their change, made that, and their record has been updated. And then another example here, let me pull up, let's look in here. I want to pull up Jeff Kahn's record here because his is a great example that shows that highlighting a little more predominantly. And so what we're seeing here is a great example of the system saying, hey, this portal user has changed things. So everything that they have changed is highlighted to me in yellow. So he's indicated a new address. And so we're going to want to update that and process that through the system. If by chance there are any duplicates, this panel down here will try and prompt me of that. Let's pull up one of those real quick. For example, my cohort here, Jeff Armstrong, the system saying, hey, this could possibly be a duplicate record. How would you like me to go forward? Would you like to merge those records together? And so the system is trying to help keep our constituent records clean and ensure that we're not creating duplicate records in the system. Okay, so let's go on to some of the other areas, such as the landing screens. Before I get too more involved in that, I wanted to stop here. Not sure if haven't been watching the chat. Are there any questions that we want to answer live, guys?
Yeah, there was a good question about when you configure the roles in Foundation Cloud Community Portal, can you set the default options?
Absolutely. Let me sign out of the portal real quick. You can configure this registration page to surface the various types of portal access user roles that you want to. And then on the back end, you can absolutely configure these to be auto approved. The system is still going to alert you that someone has requested the access. And so you'll still know and be able to see that within the processing queue. And of course, again, you can always pull this show all web users up. This now is a list of all of the portal users that I have set up in the test portal. And of course, from here on the fly, you can generate user access. So we're often asked that. What if I would like to, on behalf of the donor, create their web user access? You can certainly start that on their behalf and create it for them. So great question. And you absolutely can create these roles to be auto approved.
There's another question, Jill, about when you get an update on a portal user's details, does it override the field in Raiser's Edge, like a new email address? And when it's entered by the portal user, does it become a new default email, or is there a way to mark the old one as an archive?
That's a great question. From what I understand, it adds to, it does not override. But definitely, if anybody on products has a different viewpoint, voice that. But from what I've seen, it just adds to. What we recommend is definitely taking a look at that constituent record within your integrated CRM, Raiser's Edge, and just ensuring that it did make that as a new or augmented or added to. And then, of course, you can determine which one in that system is considered their preferred. Within this system, of course, your CRM system is intended to be more robust with regards to maintaining the various types of contact methods. And so we encourage you to maintain their various types of contact within your CRM, because obviously it has the capabilities to handle that. They can have as many different phone numbers, email addresses, and home addresses or physical addresses as they want in that system. Here it is a one-to-one. So definitely be watching the constituent record in your integrated CRM, as that is considered the system of source for everything constituents.
That's a perfect lead into the next question, Jill, about do the changes that come through Foundation Cloud, they will go and update Raiser's Edge or their CRM system?
So if you're talking about if I'm doing it directly on here versus through the processing queue, the processing queue, of course, once you accept those changes, it's pushed out. But when you're inside of their constituent record here and you're making changes, absolutely, the integration is going to share those changes with the integrated system through those syncs. Great questions. All of these types of questions that you guys are asking are wonderful, and many of them are covered within our FAQs and our training materials. So when we get done with the tour here, I'm going to make sure everybody has a strong understanding of where those things are, so that you guys can get those kinds of answers very easily and whenever you need them. So this is a great segue into the landing pages. Your records, and I talked about those earlier, such as the grant records, the constituent records, the fund records. Each one of those, let's go into each one at a time, has a very similar look and feel. For example, there's going to be summary information up at the top, including your recently accessed, a little graph showing your grants kind of split up by type. And in my case, I've also got them by month. Now that's the grants landing page. It also includes a list of all of my grants down here. And we're going to come back to this in just a moment and dive into some of the functionality that we have within that list. But I want to take you guys also into, here's all my constituent records, same look and feel. I'll have some aggregates at the top, along with some graphical representation of my constituents by type. Right here on the fly, notice I can add a new constituent record. So hopefully you're noticing that that's kind of peppered in a few places in the system. Diving now into our fund records, similar look and feel. I've got my aggregates at the top. some graphical representations of the various types and categories of my funds. One nice thing, I know a lot of you Classic users really enjoy the all-in-one fund view. Of course, we support that here in Foundation Cloud Grants. You can still traverse off into your integrated systems to take a look at those records a little closer within those systems if you need to. We just click the icons, hop straight into, in my case, it's Raiser's Edge, diving me right into that fund record. Same thing within my integrated finance system, which in my case here happens to be FE. So very easy to hop into those other systems where my fund record is also represented. The fund record, of course, is spread across all three systems. And so the all-in-one fund view is meant to be that kind of all-encompassing kind of oversight view across those systems, such as bringing in the financial information from FE, the gift details coming in from Raiser's Edge, of course, everything grants from within FCG, and any sort of investment strategies. So these tabs are really showing the power of those integrations because this data is being directly fed to me from these integrated systems. So that's the power of the syncs right there. Let's hop back into grants. Okay, so right here from this landing screen, again, do notice that you've got your integrated help. There's a lot of great information about using this grid, this data grid down here at the bottom. I'm going to dive into that here in just a moment here. But we've got a lot of helpful information on how to search within, changing your view. If you want to change the columns around, maybe you want to filter on specific things. Maybe you'd like to get this list out. This is actually one of my favorite things. This is another one of those work smart, not hard. Here we've got this little upward arrow. That's your export on demand. So without having to create a query, I can merely just sort my list, present it the way that I need it, pop it out into Excel, and I've got my list. So what can we do here? Notice that you can create a new grant. We can create a new project grant. Is it an interfund transfer? Is it a new scholarship grant? All of this straight from this landing page here. We can sort within here. It's automatically going to be doing keyword. So let's see. Let's put in something that I know is within there. Let's just put in the word family. All of the various areas within my list that have that keyword within are going to present to me. I didn't have to use any wildcards, just does that automatically. You can certainly, kind of practice within this list to search for different things. As I mentioned before, you can change your view. So maybe I'd like to see some different columns, like fund is great, but I also need that fund ID. Once I've indicated the different values, the different columns that I'd like to see, you can just drag these around how you'd like them. So maybe if I want fund ID next to fund, that makes a little more sense for my work. All of these can be moved around, rearranged, put them in the order that makes sense for you. Let's dive into some filtering and some different options here to present exactly what we want to see. For example, let's look at all these various types of statuses. These are system driven. And so they are not configurable. There's different triggers that happen in the background based on these statuses. So let's take a look at, I want to take a look at my processed ones. Hone in specifically on those. Notice that I do get an aggregate up here. So it's letting me know I have 64 grant records that are within that process status. And again, if I want to see these outside of the system, I can do that with just a click. And now on my other screen, pull that over. All right, I've got all these grants now in an Excel document. Easy stuff there. All right, so while we're here within this grant area, let's take a look at adding a new grant. All right, I'm going to pop open that help section here because there's a lot of juicy nuggets in here, including the status values. I just mentioned that those status values are not ones that you can configure, but that's because we are designing the system to behave a certain way based on these statuses. And so if you're interested in knowing, well, what do they all mean? Definitely seek out this help article, as they're all named within there. Now, the grant number is not something that you're going to be able to type into, nor is the status. Those are all grayed out. And that is because the system is going to automatically assign those. That's part of your configuration. Let's put in our received date, board date, start date, end date. Notice that those are all not required. The required fields are going to be in red with the red asterisk. Now, the receive date and the grant date, you may have noticed that those both populated as I chose the date, but you can certainly override this. Maybe the grant date is still to come next week. Request type. Now, this drop-down box is something that you can configure. This is done within the configuration area of the system. You can define your values there. How much is this grant? How were we contacted about this? How many payments? Is it going to be standard grant? Maybe it's an expense grant. And now we get to go on and choose our fund. From here, when I'm looking in my funds, this can be either within the grant system or within your integrated CRM. You can search within either one of those. Another example of the power of the integrations. This is real time, so I can search within that system without having to leave the grant system. Let's pick on one of our family funds. Again, this is keyword searching automatically, so it's pulling up all of my test funds here. Let's see, let's keep picking on Jeff. And let's see, for our recipient and our payee, lots of questions we field about these two. You are correct in the fact that it right now on the add form, it's allowing me to select one. In a few moments, once we save this grant record, I'm going to dive into the various areas within here that we can edit. So when we choose our recipient, notice that these can be different. So I know you guys have lots of use cases around the recipient and the payee are not always the same, and that's okay. From our search here, again, we're going to see the power of the integrations. I can search within the grant system, or I can go into my integrated CRM, or right here, I can create a new one on the fly. Again, the nice thing about doing that from here is the grant system is then going to create that key and make sure that those new records are tied in the background. Let's see, let's pick on some of my records here that have multiple addresses. So if I want to make sure that I'm picking the right one, let's get their downtown branch. Once I pulled in the fund, hopefully you're noticing this, that another feature that we offer here while adding is that it's going to pull up and present to you the latest and greatest fund balance. Notice that this is as of last night. Today is the 15th. That's because our our integrations with the financial system that I have, Financial Edge, is happening overnight. I can on demand, that's that little kind of curly arrow there. I can refresh this, boom, right now if I want to. If I'm concerned that maybe there's been some transactions since last night and I just want to make sure I've got the latest and greatest in here, I can do that on demand. So while that's refreshing, notice that the recipient, or excuse me, the payee in the background, did change, and that is because they're going to be automatically linked together. But do notice that you can override that. Let's get Jeff back in there. There we go. All right, so the recipient that I had was the ABC Center downtown, and notice that it automatically populated that in the payee. And I had mentioned before that many times the recipient and the payee are the same, but if you have situations where that's not going to be the same, you can certainly search for something different and make those different right here. The check designation template, these of course are configured within the system. You can edit this, applying any template, inserting any placeholders, in other words, insert fields. So if you want to beef this up, personalize it, you can do that from here. Any special instructions that the fund holder shared, or maybe those need to be internally. Your report, this report designation field, this will automatically populate based on that check designation, but you can add to this and change it. One nice thing about the report designation is this can appear to the fund holders out here in the portal. This is kind of a little known fact here. But let's log in as the donor real quick. And under their grant history, there is a column that you can make visible to them. In my case, we've labeled it Grant Nature. Where is the data that's showing up here coming from? It is this report designation. So whatever you type here, and I'm just thinking if some of you have situations where maybe it's a grant that's going to pay out multiple times, or maybe it's for a sponsored organization that has maybe multiple payments going out, paying different bills and invoices for them. So just keep that in mind, that this report designation is a field that you can present data out on the portal. Notes to staff, of course, this is for internal. Manager, that is any of the users within the system. It's going to default to whoever is creating it. All right, so we've created the new grant record. It assigned that naming convention, that numbering schema, based on my system configurations. So let's take a quick tour in our remaining time. We've got some summary information at the top. At this point, it's merely a request. Remember, within the help section, you can take a look at all of those various statuses and what they all mean. But anytime the beginning of the journey for the grant is a request. It's from there that you then, of course, process it, move it forward throughout its journey. Of course, within here, we're going to want to review certain things. If you need to change any of the details that we just set up, you're going to be presented with the grant details where you can make any of those changes. Looking at the funds, many of you have situations where you might have more than one fund as the source for the grant. You can add as many funds as you need to. let's see. Let's grab my testing fund and throw them in there. We can indicate that requester. So now I have 2 funds. I can go in and change how that payment, maybe that total grant being $1,000. Maybe we're going to split this between the 2 funds. Very easily being able to change that. The system is going to confirm for me that I have successfully changed that payment breakdown. Let's go down a little further. All of these tiles here, a lot of you are aware of this, but for those that are not, you can move these around, put them how you work. Again, Jill's a fan of working smart, not hard. So if payments is the thing that you need to dive into, you should put that right at the top. See that right at the top. So payments, definitely a lot of conversation around payments. And this is where all the magic happens, because the grant keeper is the placeholder for all of the intent. What's the history here? Who's it supposed to be going to? Where did it come in from? That's the grant record. But it's the payment record that, as I said, all the magic happens. The payment record is what you're going to be loading up onto the check run, sending over to our integrated finance system, payments out the door. So payments, you can, of course, come in and edit these. Now, this one right now is still set as scheduled. So for adjustments, I can do things like cancel it, split it, and resend. Once it is actually sent over to the finance system, so the system is thinking it's paid, it's gone out the door, these adjustment values are going to change. For example, let's say they refund, they don't use all of the grant dollars and they give some back or return some. So you're going to be able to return those and refund them and so forth. So that's where your adjustments are at. And then some of the components. So if I still need to go down and change that, I can certainly do that from here. The components is essentially just the various funds that are associated. Here we've got our payee indicated. I can add new payments if I need to. Now, when we first originally set up this grant, we said it was going to be 1 payment. But you're not locked into that. So if it turns out that the situation changes and we are going to have more than 1, you can certainly do that. Change the date. Maybe this one goes in another 6 months. We'll send another one. Are we still splitting that amongst the 2 funds? I can change that if I need to. Zero it out. Well, geez Louise, what am I doing there? Anyway, you get the gist there. And so add as many payments as you need to. It is going to keep a running total for me as far as how much has been paid versus how much is remaining. If anybody practices encumbrance, you can certainly indicate that within the payment record. So again, not limited to how many payments. It can certainly be a different payee. Lots of questions we field around assigning the payee. And maybe there are situations that the payee is going to be different for each of these payments. That's totally fine. Again, the payment record is like a sub-record of the overall grant record. And so you can indicate within those payment records, whatever the payee happens to be, whatever the amount happens to be, all of that is configurable within that payment record. Some other things that we see within, just to kind of finish our tour off, workflow, of course, workflow is configurable within the system. You define that workflow, the assignment of these tasks. We started off our conversation with kind of a alert about our workflow tasks, and then also how you can go into your account profile and indicate whether or not you'd like to receive email notifications related to, I call them shoulder taps, little reminder, hey, you got something to do. Custom fields, a couple of releases ago, we changed the name of this. And so custom fields, you can, of course, add as many custom fields as you need to. And we also give you characteristics. I think the big difference between the two of these is fields as input values, data fields. Users can put in information. We can pull that into queries and reports. Characteristics are more like drop-down boxes, table-driven, and those types of things. Again, we can certainly query and report on characteristics also. Lastly, we've got comments, documents, being able to attach files, being able to just drag and drop. That's super nice. So I've got a file on my desktop and I just want to bring it on in. Pretty easy, just drag it, drop it on in, and go ahead and hit save. It'll add it to it. Correspondence. There are so many places within the system that you can send correspondence. Of course, from the individual grant record here, we can send out mail merge. So if we want to do snail mail, send an actual document, we can do that. Or we can certainly send electronically and email them. Your templates, of course, are all configurable in the system. They're very robust. A lot of you participated in other Let's Talk solutions, and we've had a lot of sessions around correspondence and using our HTML editors to beef those up, make them pretty, throw your logos in it, anything else that you want to enhance those with. You can add system alerts to the records. And then anything that's associated, other records in the system, are just a blue link, super easy to traverse off into these if you need to examine them a little closer. And then be able to return to the grant record if I need to. Okay, so that's our tour of the grant record, and we're getting towards the end of our time together. So I want to make sure folks are super comfortable with getting into our resources. So starting with support and training, impact.com, go to our website. That's one way of getting there. Our integrated help also links to this. How can we help? Contacting support. Just recently, we went through a change with our support portal. A lot of you have been using that new method. It's very nice to be able to go in and see your historical support items, be able to kind of look at that from an organization view. For those of you that are using FIMS or Donor Central, you do have a separate support portal. Our knowledge base, chocked full of frequently asked questions, a nice, quick, I need to know something, read a quick article, and be able to go right into being able to perform those actions. User voice. This is new, and I want to make sure our folks are aware of this. This is such a great forum for you to help steer the future of our products. So if you're not aware of this, please, please, please go sign up, because exactly what it's saying here, we want to hear from you. And so let your voice be heard. You're going to be able to go into the various products, be able to submit in an idea, and then be able to vote on them. Woohoo! I love this. So again, we really want to hear from you. We want to know what features and functions that you need in order to be successful. How can we help you? What's better? Because you guys are the ones that are using it. And so we really need to hear from you on how to continue to make the Foundation Cloud across the systems, the grant, the portal, all of it. How can we make it better? This is your opportunity to voice that and to be able to see what others are saying and vote on those. Okay, so we got about 5 minutes left. Any remaining questions or anything else we want to add, team?
I think we'll pop back to our presentation here. And just to reiterate a bit what Jill was talking about, here is that this will be in the presentation when it's a clickable link so that you can go to our training and be sure that you've gone through each of those trainings. If you have questions or, like Jeff mentioned, anything on the change management, here's some contact information you can reach out to. That'd be great. We've answered a number of questions in our Q&A already. Hopefully everyone has seen those. Our next Let's Talk Solutions will be on April 19th. So please mark your calendars and feel free to go register if you're not already registered for all of them. And I think that's it. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jeff, for all the great material. We answered a lot of questions online and had some great conversations. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you in April.